Good evening and welcome, everybody. It is with great privilege and pleasure that I sit before all of you here today and everybody watching at home and everybody watching on social media. I welcome each and every single one of you. Today's date is June 25th, 2019. The day is Tuesday and the time is now 4:59, and I call this meeting to order. We're like in between 5:01 and 4:59, so would it be 5? The time is now 5 o'clock, and I call this meeting to order. We'll start with agenda number 1, invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation led by Pastor Matthew Moreno with BT Church, and then pledged by Councilman Ronberg. Please rise.
Awesome. Let's pray. God, we just thank you first and foremost for you, God. We thank you for another day to come together and gather together. And as we look for different ways to push the city forward, God, I ask that you would be with the council and the mayor here tonight, God, and everybody presenting, that your hand would be on this place. God, I'm thankful for the sacrifices that the council members make, that the mayor makes, God, sacrificing time from their family and different things. God, I'm thankful for their hearts to serve this community. God, I pray that you would give them a breath of fresh air as we're in this summer season. But we know business doesn't stop. So, God, I pray that you would continue to be with them, continue to lead and guide each and every one of them. God, right now I just want to lift up Alice PD, God, and the Alice Fire Department, all of our first responders. Lord, I ask that you would be with them, continue to lead and guide them and protect them. Lord, I ask that your hand would be on today's meeting. Lord, we thank you. This is Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2, citizen comments and public announcements. We have one signed up for citizen comments. Just a reminder, any citizen who has a request for city services or other items of concern which cannot be approved or otherwise resolved by the city manager may choose to address the council. Citizens who do wish to address the city council about items on the agenda will have 3 minutes to express their position. Please indicate agenda item number on which you wish to comment. All presentations and discussions should be directed to the city council and all questions to the mayor. Any complaints and/or discussion about individuals, personnel, council members, city staff, or other persons would be out of order and will not be heard by the city council at this time. Charges or complaints about specific individuals shall be presented in writing to the city manager. All complaints of this nature must be signed and dated by the individual filing the complaint and will be addressed pursuant to Alice personnel policies. Please approach the speaker's stand, state your full name and address when you begin your remarks so that the official minutes will record your appearance before City Council. If you have written notes you wish to present to the mayor and council, please furnish an extra copy to the city clerk for official files. Please direct your comments to the mayor and council. Although council cannot take specific action on citizens' comments topics due to legal requirements, they will hear the topic and council may have the item placed on future agenda for action or refer the item to the board, commission, or committee, or refer the item to staff for study or conclusion. Thank you for your cooperation. At this time, may Ms. Nancy Young approach the stand, or Maritza Gonzalez, and/or? Yes, ma'am.
Council members? There's one for each and one for you. We thank you, Mayor Jolene and the city council members. We have a topic that has been 6 years trying to get resolved, so we refer this to the board. And the item that is given to you shows a policy at the Alice Library. The patrons and the concerned citizens request that both internet and computer be looked at. The public library is a public service. There's several that need access to the computer. Some have 17. We have early college, they're graduating at 17. We have some that are 18. 18 is the adult age in the city, or in the state of Texas, should be able to get a library card and have been denied. Some are 17 and graduated from high school and associates in the college. They were trying to do their projects and were denied. So we are presenting to you, city council members, to look at the policy that the city council approved. As far as the year when this was approved, there's no date on it, so No one had record of it except that the city council approved it. So we're hoping that we get guest passes to any patron needing to use the internet and the computer. And maybe take it up in another action form or committee. But our library should be able to, all walks of life, to have uses of the computer. And Melissa Gonzalez, who uses the library, will speak on her, what she's done.
On my behalf, I don't know what I would have done without the computers for my projects. I always use computers because I never really had electronics in my house to use, so I would always depend on the school library or the public library. And sometimes I couldn't because they denied me, but sometimes they would let me, and I used that as a great advantage for me. So without those computers, I wouldn't have made good grades on my assignments or my projects.
We thank you, and we hope that y'all can resolve the issue and let all walks of faith come into the library and use the internet and computer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are no other citizen comments at this time. Public announcements, Mr. Molina?
No, I'm done.
Mr. Crisp?
Not much aside from it's hot out there. Stay hydrated. Be careful. Dehydration is very serious and it's happening a lot, so be careful out there.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I have something
sir.
on the public comments.
Okay.
The county is going to have an agenda item on Friday at 9 a.m. Presentation by Hart InterCivic on election software and equipment. So they're discussing purchasing new equipment. The election administrator wanted us to invite you guys to that if you wanted to see any demonstrations or just be available to see what they're doing. We rent the equipment from the county purchases it, the elections office, and we contract with them for our election. So she wanted to make sure that y'all had an invitation. I thought it'd be a good time to share it with y'all.
Can you say the date one more time, sir?
It's 9 o'clock Friday, June 28th.
Okay.
The agenda item is number 14 and 15.
Let me know how that goes.
Okay, thank you. And just a recap of some of the happenings in Alice. If you see Father Pete with St. Joseph, wish him a farewell. He had a great show at his despedida this weekend. Almost 700, maybe over people showed up for this free event to the community. It was a really, really nice show of community, and I thank all of you who went. And if you didn't, if you see him, tell him goodbye and thank you for 6 years of service to our city, which he's been a huge part of. And also this week coming up is our Reader's Choice Awards, which is a huge event put on by our local newspaper. So I invite everybody to come out Thursday. It starts at 5 and will go on to, I believe, midnight. So come out. If you haven't gotten tickets, I believe you can still buy them at the door. No more. Sold out. Oops. Sorry. Big event. Great event. And thank you to our local newspaper for putting that together. Okay. Agenda item number 3. Recognize Alice High School ROTC cadets for their participation in emergency preparedness training at the School Safety Center, Texas State University in San Marcos.
Mr. Burke? And I'll take pictures.
Okay.
Unless all of you want to take pictures.
Would everybody like to take pictures?
You can call out the names and then do a
Education
group, right?
professional.
We do not have all of our cadets here, so I'll take them on their behalf
Awesome.
and I'll pass it to them.
Perfect, thank you. Awesome, guys, awesome job. Awesome.
Let me see if I can go around for the pictures.
Thank you.
Sir, appreciate it.
So this program is a really cool program, and I'm going to allow Mr. Burke to say a little bit more about it. That we work together as city and schools. We're trying extremely hard to make sure that they're both married and stay married, because schools and cities should be one thing, never should be separate. And this is the first time that we've done such an awesome thing where they participated in an emergency type of program to be able to assist in emergency situations. They received a grant, which we, Mr. Burke and I were instructional into sending a letter and trying to do what we could last minute to get them in, and we did it. So congratulations and kudos, guys, that y'all were there to do this. This is amazing. This is really awesome. Mr. Burke, would you like to say a little bit more about the
Sure.
program?
Just that the fact, again, of the community and school working together, city, and the reality that we do have an emergency, and what better training, what better opportunity to give the young people hands-on experience in real-life situations, being an assistant with community involvement. So this is going to have a huge payoff, assisting our first responders, citizen involvement, and look forward to it. Hoping that we don't ever have to use it, but it's there if we need it.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. So these certificates we're handing out are a Certificate of Completion Community Emergency Response Team, Basic FEMA G317. Do y'all know what G317 stands for?
No.
Do you, Mr.
No, I
Burke?
don't.
Interesting, we'll have to learn something.
It's
But
the
anyway,
grade- It's the grade level.
grade
Grade level. of
Grade
their-
level.
Yeah.
of their group?
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you, ma'am.
It sounds like it's a great thing. We're hoping 317 is an 8. But very good. Anytime FEMA is associated with somebody, that's a big honor, because FEMA does not take things lightly, and they expect the best of the best, and they expect T's to be crossed, I's to be dotted, so congratulations. Big job. So, Mr. Burke, would you like to? I'll let you go ahead.
The first one, Gabriel Garza. Maybe I volunteered to go as a chaperone,
Yes, thank you, sir.
security officer. Zane Valderas. Zane?
He is not here.
Okay.
Jonathan Salinas.
He is not here.
You're not here. Okay.
Joseph Benetta.
He is not here.
Okay. Great job, gentlemen.
I can recognize
Is that
these
all right?
names.
Patrick Barrera.
Gallo Contreras.
Everybody just get your 10 bucks.
Thank you.
Anthony Gonzalez.
Great job.
Julian Jimenez.
He is not here yet.
And Thomas Vigil. You're here.
Great job, sir.
And Anthony Coburn.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you all so much. Would you like to take a group picture?
Thank you.
Come on, guys.
Come on, Don, let's get in here.
Get in here, guys.
Let's get a good picture.
Squeeze out. You gotta be-
I can't get council that's on the back.
That's all right.
We'll need to decide about us.
Squeeze in, squeeze in. I ate lunch.
Okay, there, that's
I'm
perfect.
hungry.
Perfect.
Show your certificate.
Great, thank you.
Couple more, hang on. Don't move. One more. Got it.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your service, guys. No.
Mayor,
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Hi there.
How
are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Just to add to the 9 cadets that went there, when school starts, we're going to work on getting a team of 20 and hopefully building it to where the majority of our corps is actually involved in this. So we're hoping to make, not just ROTC, but to help the city more than
Thank
just
you.
cleaning up the park.
Wow,
So-
that's awesome. Thank you all so much. And
Okay.
thank you for all your
No,
great work.
hey, without the letters of recommendation from you and Mr. Burke, I don't think that we would have gotten a scholarship to go on. So it was, they were one of only 10 teams. It was only 100 people up there, and 90 of them were students, and the other,
Wow.
10. So, I mean, that was
Awesome.
great for our little town to get chosen for something. So
Let's take one more group picture with
Yes,
Sergeant Lane. in
Sergeant
there.
Lane, yes. I know.
Lead her out.
Of course, I had to go to Alabama for CERT
Yeah.
training, so I'm thankful that Gabriel actually did that. I didn't-
And I think it warrants to say too, in case it wasn't, that they took time out of their summer. This was a summer program, not a school time program. So they took time out of their summer to do this, to help out our city. So thank you.
Close it down, we got it.
Anthony.
Close it down. No, it's okay.
It's all right,
Ready?
Got it?
We're
Thank
sorry I
you.
didn't have time to
Thank you again.
Thanks.
You're fine, no, thank you.
Examples of the youth.
Thank you.
Huh? Your furry boots?
Thank you.
What's funny is they look furry, but they're made of fish because they have a pair of like
I want to go shiny like yours, but it's all like
Okay. We've already gone to agenda item 4. Thank you, Miss Nancy. Agenda item number 4, here status report from city manager, archive socials, social media, archiving software, human resource software, risk management, annual training schedule 2019-2020 fiscal year, human resources training schedule.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of the things we've been working on from the administrative standpoint and human resource risk management is we contracted with a firm called Archive Social. Actually, it's a software that manages, it's going to keep records of all our social media pages, all the Facebook pages we have throughout the city, the police department, the fire department, our city administrative one. This is really just for, and the library has one too, for public information requests that we get. They're going to keep track of all it, archive it, and we'll be able to produce anything that we need to a lot quicker than we have been doing it in the past. Jim, do you want to add something to that? Yeah, Jim and Odie and Becky have been working on this.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Did you want to add anything to that? Or some specifics on how it's going to work?
Well, they'll archive all of our social media as far as Facebook, Twitter, and any of that stuff from back when we created the pages, actually. From here on out, it'll also give us the opportunity to pull stuff back that's been deleted. If someone posts something and then deletes it, and we need it to be able to answer a TPIA or something like that, we'll be able to pull that up. So we'll. I'm in the process of registering our accounts with them, but they've already captured the stuff from the beginning of time, basically. So it's going to help in case we do get into some mix-up with a TPIA or something.
And we do get a lot of public information requests, and just fulfilling them takes a lot of time, and this program is going to make it a lot faster for us. Thank you,
Definitely,
Jim.
we'll get a request. We should be able to fulfill it that same day, maybe within that same hour for this kind of stuff. So that's good.
Very good, thank you.
The second item we have is another from our HR perspective. We are using a new software called Applicant Pro, trying to get to a more paperless environment. We keep a lot of paper. If you've been to our HR department, it's been cleaned up in the past few weeks. There are boxes and boxes, and so now we're trying to figure out which ones we need to keep. There's an agenda item that's going to talk about that later on in the meeting, but we're streamlining our hiring process. Applicant Pro is going to allow us to do paperless applications as well. If somebody gets onboarded, it'll help us, or pre-onboarded is going to help us with background checks and all that information, be able to text message them back if they want to come in for an interview. Just using technology the way it's supposed to be used. Once somebody does come in and gets hired, they'll be able to, it's going to integrate with our encode system that we'll have, so there won't be additional entering information from the accounting standpoint. So that's something that we've already started from the HR perspective. Another couple of things are, to give you an idea of what else we're doing from HR, is risk management training and also human resource training. We're using, aside from TML, we're using another full library that has a lot of training that we're doing. And to give you an idea, so from risk management, and we have a full schedule, and we have 2 new people in HR as of the last, 4 months, yeah. And they've been doing a lot of work trying to get things caught up. to give you an idea, so in October, we're going to have safe lifting and review of our city property schedule. This is all from risk management. December, active shooter training, hazardous communication training, bee and snake awareness in February, defensive driving in April, PPEs, personal protective equipment in April as well. In May, heat extreme training. So those are all part of the risk management schedule that we have. And so in Human Resources Department, conflict resolution, preventing harassment, creating a positive workplace, ergonomics, bullying and other disruptive behavior, drug and alcohol abuse, and also active shooter and fighting fatigue in the workplace. These are just things that we're doing to get kind of the city where it should be, and from the HR perspective, and making sure our employees are safe and protected. I want to give you an update on that.
Thank you. Great job. Agenda item number 5, discuss, consider, and act upon approval of city council minutes for May 21st, 2019 and June 3rd, 2019 city council meetings.
I didn't see anything.
Council, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Make a
Mo-
motion, sorry, I'm making a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, hear presentation from Fidel Rule with AARC Environmental on America's Water Infrastructure Act and proposal for compliance.
Mayor, on 6, 7, and 8, what we're doing is we're having presentations. These are things that we're working on,
Right.
and each one of these vendors are people that we're considering entering into negotiations with
Right.
and contracting with, and this specifically is a very important one. And so Mr. Rule is here to give a presentation.
Welcome, Mr. Rule, and former mayor as well.
That's the
Well,
one.
back there, father.
I'm the third.
I was
He's
like,
junior. Yeah, I know.
Thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you.
Okay, great. So my name is Fidel Roll. I'm with ARC Environmental. I'm the Environmental Regulatory Counsel with the company, and I'm here to talk about the American Water Infrastructure Act that was signed into law in October of 2018. Just hit that one.
The middle one, right? Jim?
The far right.
Far right.
Far right, okay.
You may have to point it.
So the act is a 3-step process. One is the risk assessment and vulnerability assessment of the community water systems. This is required for all water systems serving a community of 3,300 or more people. So what it entails is that you have to look at all your facilities, the security aspect of the assets of the water system. Also included in that is also the cybersecurity, looking at your SCADA system, the remote systems, and the vulnerability of those associated systems. And so the EPA requires that all to be done, and it's all based on a deadline based on the population served. Y'all are in the lower end, so you have a little bit of time, but it's going to take a while to do it, to do the full assessment. And from what I understand, I remember Alice buys their water from Corpus, pipes it 48 miles. So all of that needs to be checked. That's all part of the process of checking the vulnerability and the asset risk assessment of that. The second step of that is drafting the emergency response plan. Oh, here's the risk assessment, sorry. And there was an original Bioterrorism Vulnerability Act that was signed about 10 years ago. This one supersedes it, replaces it. This one also includes the natural disasters and the terrorist acts as well, but mainly it's the natural disasters that's been added to it, and the cybersecurity, because of what they've been seeing lately, what's been happening with some of the community water systems around the country. They thought it was necessary for people to have an emergency response plan in place for the natural disasters, for the floodings, earthquakes, the wildfires that happen in the various parts of the country. So drafting the emergency response plan has to be done within 6 months of completion of the risk assessment. So you may have done a risk assessment maybe a year or two ago. that doesn't apply. We can use that as a basis, but you need to do a full risk assessment again and draft the emergency response plan based on the findings of that risk assessment. And then once all that's drafted and done, our team of experts will work with the city to make sure everyone's on board, everyone understands what needs to be done, and then it gets certified and submitted to the Department of Homeland Security and the US EPA, that it's all been done. So ARC Consultants is a division of ARC Environmental. We already have an established team with the requisite expertise. And so we have people who are certified with the SCADA systems and with the cybersecurity systems, individuals that have been working on the risk assessment and vulnerability for over 20 years, are our team leaders and people who have been doing these emergency response plan for over 28 years and have now been our members of our team that will be heading up this project. Are there any questions?
You can ask some questions, sure.
Okay.
No, can they ask some questions?
Yeah, you all can ask questions. Yeah.
Okay.
We have, because we have presentations.
Council?
Yeah, we had your
I'm
presentation.
sorry, I didn't understand. I thought, am I supposed to ask you?
That's the presentation. We have an established partnership with the city. We've been working with the city in environmental compliance for the service center, the airport, and the landfill since 2014. And I think we've been doing a good job. I hear we're doing a good job, so.
And they have, and they're very thorough, and we've been happy with the work that they've been doing. And so this came up, the water AWIA, and so it's something that they've been handling, and for other communities also. So we've been negotiating back and forth, and we're close to coming to some kind of agreement. But I wanted you guys to know what they're working on as well, and if y'all had questions from them and the work that they're doing.
Okay. Council, any questions, Mr. Molina?
No questions.
Mr. Chris?
So we have to have a risk assessment by June 30, 2021?
Yes,
With our
sir.
population size?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then it has to be in place within 6 months of that, correct? Okay. No, I was just, because I was confused by the dates there for a second, but no, we're good.
Yeah, there's the first date for the risk assessment, and then 6 months the emergency response plan needs to be submitted and certified and submitted to the Department of Homeland Security and US EPA.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Mr. Burke?
Just for clarification, is this the first one we've done, but there have been previous ones? Is that my understanding?
Well, I don't know if the city has done one previously with the Bioterrorism and Vulnerability Act signed in 2001, but that was the last law that was passed by Congress, and every water system was required to do it back then. And this is the new one that was just enacted in October of 2018.
Michael, you know, have we?
Not that I remember.
I think we had one. That's what I'm
And we're ahead, you know, if we wanted to get closer to meeting this debt, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting it done sooner.
Right.
But we have some time, but we were talking about it, you know, for our water system and the risks that we have, the sooner the better we are to get something like this completed.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have till, the response plan till December of 2021, but there's no reason to wait till the very end to try to get it done.
Ms. Burke? Ms. Bowen?
No, I think,
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for your time.
And thank you, Mr. Poole. All right, agenda item number 7, hear presentation from Gatehouse Media Website Management, Social Media Solutions, and other services for the City of Alice. Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Back in April, we met with Michael and some of the department heads on some of the issues that they were facing on managing their Facebook, their Twitter, their internet sites, and things of that nature. With the city taking back over the hot funds, there wasn't enough people to help manage that. And I had conversations with Michael about what we could do to help. So after listening to your department heads, we came back with a miniature proposal. of addressing their needs. And with those needs, some of the things that we found out that you had one person placing information or updating the website. You had a different person doing the Facebook, a different person doing the Twitter. We would help streamline that, where we would take your messages that need to get out to the public, and we would help update your website. We would also put that message out on Twitter. We'd also put that same message out on Facebook. For instance, last week, you guys had an issue with the garbage trucks. Someone broke down, and there's some routes that were not able to get picked up. What we could have done if we were partners with that, we could have done a campaign, a direct email campaign just to those citizens that were affected, letting them know that the trucks broke down, your trash would be picked up tomorrow, instead of letting the whole city know that there was trucks broke down. We could help streamline that. We also talked about doing a employee-only secured website that you could post your employee manual on. People could go and see how much time off that they had accrued. Where HR could post their documents that employees could get to, and it'd be password protected. We'd work closely with your HR department to get that done. We also would work with your fire and your first responders. If there's a natural disaster that you had happen, that we can get those messages out in a timely fashion to the citizens. Instead of having 3 or 4 people do this, we would collect that data and we would put it out for you in an instance. That's what we're proposing to do. Basically, Michael had made a comment that they were thinking about hiring an employee. Basically, you would be paying us $12 an hour on a 40-hour work week, which is what it breaks down to. You wouldn't have to give us any benefits or vacation or sick time, but that's what it boils down to, is $12 an hour on a 40-hour work week. We're right across the street. We're here when you need us. We've been partners. This Thursday, Jolene had mentioned, we're having our Reader's Choice. We're been in this city for 125 years. We pride ourselves on keeping everything local, and if you had something that Patrick or your fire department or police department had something they need to get out immediately, we could do that along the channels. We also could help market your city to outlying areas like McAllen, Rockport. We had told Michael that if y'all had those fairs that Juan used to go to, we would take over those for you. We would promote the city. Who knows more about the city than your newspaper? We know what's hot coming in. We know what attracts people here. We do this day in and day out. Marketing is what we do. So those are some of the things that we could help streamline for the city, and work real close with the city and get these things accomplished, and help what your department head said that they needed to get better on. We would help be a partner in that. Any questions?
Ms. Bowen?
On the handbook here that you submitted, it says something under your marketing solutions.
Yes.
You talk about Alice Echo Newsprint. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, some of the things that we would do is not just social and digital. We'd also help, because you have a variety of different readers. You have some that Facebook, you have some that Twit. You got some that they want to have that tangible piece in their hand.
Right.
So this covers the print and the digital and all the social media that we can for you.
Okay. And I guess later we'll talk about the limitations of it, how much, what you would put in there at the time and stuff like that.
It's all based on what your needs are.
It's going, okay.
There's no limits.
Okay.
If you had 10 different things that you need to get out to the public, we would do a campaign for those 10 different things of what we thought would be best and well suited for those people that need or are being affected.
Okay.
Like, for instance, like I said, I'll bring up the trash because that's the most recent one.
Right.
We're in a small town talks. You have an issue, we don't want to make it bigger than what it is, so we're going to let the people who's affected by it know that your trash is getting picked up tomorrow because of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we would address those things.
Okay. And you talked about local, someone working local. Is that?
That's me.
You would be the one?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been in the business 39 years. I'll celebrate my 40th anniversary next February the 14th.
Okay.
Don't plan on going anywhere. This is my home. This is my family. This is my friends.
Good deal. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
On that, not to interrupt council, but just Sandra pointed out that on solutions, on page 26, you do list Alice Echo newsprint.
Yes.
But on page 29, our monthly investment does not include print, and I know print can be costly.
We're talking about things that we can use through our editorial department. We, if there's different avenues about that, like, we're talking about, you know, if you had something going on at the park, that's not a charge. We would cover it, and we would help write the press release, we'd help get that information together, make sure that our staff is notified. If you have Juneteenth, we work with those people, organizations to get that information out. So these are things that we can do that's not a paid status.
So not to get confused with advertising.
It's not.
It would not be advertising.
Your social media, yes, it is.
Right.
If you had a Juneteenth that you wanted to help promote, we would promote that on Facebook. Those fees that you see there is the fees that we're charged to help manage those things. Believe it or not, everything you put on Facebook that has a dollar sign with it, they charge us for. And Facebook's proud of their advertising. So, and not all of those items you're going to use every month. There's, you have those direct emails. You may not use direct emails every month, so that's going to be on an as-needs basis. That's the a la carte if you did everything. But there's some of those items you're not going to need. Like you may not need an email campaign in August. If you do, if we have a hurricane coming up and you talk about sandbags, we may want to do an email campaign to everybody, say where they can get the sandbags and how they go about getting them. So
Initially, we were looking at, you know, social media management and website management.
yes,
That's what got the conversation rolling also about what our needs were here. You know, we're looking at, in the next agenda item, we're going to talk a little bit about an app. We have, you know, we have a website that, and then we have an app. We're looking to do an app and try to bring everything together. And then from there, some things kind of go out of there, but then some things can come back. Like with an app, we'll be able to link back into where we need, somebody needs to send a message or something like that, or find out how to, you know, a bill pay. So directing traffic back to a website. But here, you know, one of the things that we found is, and a lot of things we're trying to do also on the water project we're working on, we're trying to bring everything kind of together and get a handle of it and try to be as efficient as we can and make sure that we get information out properly. And we have a lot of moving parts, and we're trying to
you know, it's as simple as if you change a phone number. If you had Jim try to fix that phone number on the website, he would be there countless of hours trying to get that fixed amongst all those directories across the internet. We make one input, we change the phone number across the entire internet. One entry. You would spend hours and hours and hours, and you would probably miss one. This is what we do it every day, and we're very good at it. Our digital team is based out of Chicago, and we're one of the top 20 vendors with Google in the world. We have our own employee at Google, and we have our own employee at Facebook.
So, I was there when these conversations actually started, because what we were looking for initially
was an app.
It was an app, yeah, but was how it shifted over to where they would help us out was we needed somebody that would completely fill in for the CVB side of things.
Yes.
Right? Now, but what we're looking at here is more along the lines of city services, right? So what we're looking at is a small portion of what would be hot funds or CVB funding or CVB takeover, the marketing, right? And we're seeing a lot now of what is now city funding to try to take over some of the city functions, city employee functions and so forth and so on. So we need to recognize the fact that it's kind of shifted gears a little bit from where we started to where we're at.
Yeah. And that's all based on the conversation we had with your department heads on their needs and what they asked us to help bring some solutions to the table.
Okay.
So, you know, right now you have the wizard behind the door here. He wears a lot of many hats, and we're trying to help fix that where if you had a change on the website, we can get it changed just like that. If you had an event happening that your city wanted to market it through your hot funds, we're able to take care of that also. So we would be that one contact instead of having to track down 10 people to get one item done. We would be that one person. We can handle those different formats for you. And the nice thing about having your local newspaper with it, we stay attuned with what's changing on in Google. We get notified, we get trained. So we hear about things that are changing that will help benefit the city in their marketing. And this is not the first city that we've done. We got Bartlesville that we partnered up with, that we bring
What is
those.
that, Russell?
Bartlesville?
Bartless?
Bartlesville,
Bartlesville.
Arkansas, yes. So if you take a look at their website and their thing, it's just that it's easier for us to do it because that's what we do. You know, if I had a water leak, I'd call a plumber. If I want someone to do marketing, I would call somebody in marketing, and that's what we do.
Okay, so going back to the investment, and I'm assuming that this is true and correct, what
Yes.
the package would offer.
Yes, that's if you use everything.
Right. Digital emails, where would you get the list?
We generate that list. We have that list.
How?
We buy that list. We know.
So zip code, like a zip code list?
Zip
or-
code based on needs. I love to explain that this way. If you as a Democrat and you want to hit just the Democrat voters who voted in the last 3 years of the election, I can give you that list.
Mhm.
If you want people who were out car shopping and you want the people who are looking at Ford F-150s
Right.
that are 2018 models, I could give you that list.
Mm-hmm.
If Pete Chris wanted to know who was ordering shirts the last 3 years that had custom designs, I could pull that list. It's almost scary.
Yeah.
I could pull that list.
Yeah.
So,
I guess where I
Sounds
go
like
with
you're the
her
wizard.
question.
Well, there's companies that do that, that's all they specialize in is just
yes.
But I guess-
snooping, I guess.
I guess the
into what people
question
buy.
goes to when you had made a statement about mailing out, about sending an email out about trash delivery.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
get that list from us?
Nope.
No, but.
But
well,
that's
We
who I
pull-
would want you to get that list
We
from.
we would pull that list from the current residents that live in that area. Your list may not be updated, but this list is clean and refurbished every 24 hours. So if you had someone who moved, say you have somebody on Roosevelt, and your list is from somebody who might have lived there 3 years ago, and that house was sold 2 weeks ago, we know that there's a new residence there, and we know who to address that to.
But, I mean,
Yeah, but
they're
we
not
sell
gonna be able to hit
garbage to
everybody.
that.
Yeah.
we
Exactly.
bill them though, so.
Yeah.
we-
But there's things that that
accurate.
need to be talked to about
Right.
this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a lot, I mean, it's something that we definitely need because we don't have anybody that
Right.
does this stuff for us. We have a piecemeal, sometimes it's Michael, sometimes it's Jim, sometimes it's whoever is dealing with the project, Miss Odie or whoever. Becky. I don't think that this isn't something that we need. I think we just have to nail down the actual way it's gonna be done for us
Specifics.
specifically, and I think that in this discussion, I think that's what you've offered us up, the starting point, and then we can go
Yes.
from there.
Is this your final offer?
I said starting point.
There's a lot of competition out there. The business in me, sorry.
Yeah.
2,367 is what I show here. Monthly, is that monthly? Yes, monthly?
There's a lot of those businesses that are not across the street that can talk to you one-on-one, that's been in this market and knows this town better than we do. Nobody knows this town better than your newspaper. That's why we've been here 125 years. I've been here 20.
I'm not going to say anything right now about that. But anyway, okay, so what we see here on page 29
That's
is,
if you use everything every month. You won't need all of those every month.
I think we do. I mean, I think we do.
The AliceTX.com, that is actually y'all's website
That's our
advertising or
website. We
something?
had 55,000 unique visitors that visit our website, and that would be something that we would place on our website that would link right back to the city's website based on what current events are happening. If there's the natatorium's been open for spring break, or if you got a golf tournament going on, or if you got a festival going on, or you're closed on 4th of July, or Veterans Day, you want to do a salute. So, and it links right back to your site. The nice thing about it, if you're doing something on, say you have a water issue and there's something on that, the ad will click and go right to that spot on your website or whatever landing page that we need to explain it further.
Yeah, I mean, there's some updates too, because under social media management, we have Facebook, we have Twitter.
Right.
YouTube is also a social media
Yes.
platform that we are on that
Yes.
needs to be managed. And the Facebook placements at $750, that is advertising dollars?
That's on
That's their
any-
boosting dollars?
And that's on any event that you have that you want to promote.
Okay,
And that's where your social media comes in at.
right, okay.
That's where your hot funds would be going.
On page 28, you have set up intake call with Thrive Hive.
Yes, that's our digital department, part of Gatehouse. It's called Thrive Hive. You can look at it on at your leisure. It's thrivehive.com. And we have a person that help manage it on the technical side, and they help do all of the copyright that's copyrighted to the city.
Monthly reviews for analytics.
We go over to, so we can tell you exactly who's visits the site, any kind of demographics that you would need to break down for your reports. We can tell you exactly who that is. Like, for instance, if we did something for the natatorium, we could tell you exactly who looked at it, if it was parents, male, females, or if it was kids. You know, we could be able to tell you exactly who it was. The numbers are almost scary for what we can track.
And emergency messaging, Russell?
Yes, that's anything that your police department or fire department has. If they had a gas leak or something,
Okay.
we could do that in a spur of the moment to let people know what's going on. And that's also, you know, to anything that's affecting the city. If you had if you had a street closure because you had a water main break, we would let the people know that that street was closed, and these are the detoured routes around it. Give them a Google map so they can find their way around.
My concern always with our social presence is that it is scattered. We have our multi-use, we have our golf course, we have our government, so with this, streamline it to just City of Alice, and then we would branch out within.
We would meet with the different departments. Instead of having different departments posting what they think is equitable, we would collect that data and put it out after you guys approve what we came up with. Once you approve it, we send it out. So, you know, we would take care of your golf course, your natatorium. We would visit with those different department heads and get that out.
So the presence would remain the same with it scattered?
See, I think,
No, we're looking to revamp the whole website
Yeah.
also, and bring things in. That's gonna touch also on the app where everything's gonna be as well. We do need to have everything organized
As
Yeah.
one.
at one place, and and even if we do have a separate address, but at least a link to that other website, we want to keep something different.
Yeah, it
Like
makes
the
us-
golf course can be different, but it needs to be on our main site, and
Right.
everything needs to be there. But yeah, it needs to be a lot
Yeah.
more organized. than
It needs to be more reader-friendly. You know, if
Right.
I was wanting to find out
Website,
something, where would I go? And that's what we do. You know, we would,
I think,
Go ahead.
I think what we're asking is I think what she's trying to state is on our Facebook, let's just say.
Social media.
So on Facebook right now, we have the City of Alice Government is a page.
Yep.
We have the
Multi-use.
City of Alice Multi-Use Complex is a
Yes,
page.
we
We have
would
the City of
streamline that.
Alice Municipal Golf Course
Yeah.
is a page. And I think what needs to happen if we move forward with this is that the City of Alice Government page, if we want to post something on one of the other ones, it also needs to go here.
Yes.
With a link that the one needs to be the center of attention, and the other ones can be where if I'm at the golf course and I want to check in, so be it, I check in there. But when the city puts something out, it needs to really be focused on one
Yes.
essential
Yeah,
place.
it's gonna be all streamlined under one umbrella. And if you guys decide that you want an natatorium Facebook and you want a golf course Facebook, that's what you're gonna tell us that you want, and we're gonna help manage those. But if you're telling me that everything needs to go under one central Facebook page and then branch out to the other ones, then we'll help streamline that. Instead of having someone at the golf course doing this and someone at the natatorium doing this, we're gonna manage that message. We're gonna make sure it's right, we're gonna make sure it's not liable, make sure that it's not getting the city into any trouble. We have, you know, you have your legal team here, we have our legal team here too also, that will check everything prior to us presenting it to you.
Right.
So that keeps you out of hot water, keeps us out of hot water. And there will be times that you will present us something and we'll go, we think you should approach it this way. Or we've heard this going on in the community and we think the city needs to post this and this is what we think you need to post. Is to have another set of eyes and ears out there for you. This, you know, we're everywhere. but we try to be everywhere.
I think it's something that we need to continue to move forward on, so.
It's much needed. I mean,
Yeah.
social media is the way of the future, and I'm excited about at least entertaining the start of this, so. Mr. Burke, do you have any questions?
Yeah, a couple questions, clarification.
Yes, sir.
You said "we," you used the term "we," and wondering about the level and amount of information and events that occur on a weekly, daily, whatever basis. Are you, Russell Gruber, committing that you're gonna be available 24/7?
Yes, me and my team. This is the nice thing about it. When I say we, I'm talking about we as the newspaper. But once you guys come on board with us, you have a whole social media team that will be taking care of this behind the scenes. So it's basically like you going out and hiring an agency to manage your city. That's what we are. I'm your contact here locally, but we have a whole managed of teams that specialize in Facebook. We have another team that specializes in Twitter. We got another special team that specializes in YouTube. So these people know they're the best of the best.
Yeah.
So when I say we, it's we as
And
a
see, a
team.
follow-up to that is, I'm wondering how much staff time is going to be devoted, like how many people, you're hosting this, but how many levels of
We have
people do we have to, will staff have to go through?
You have one,
get things-
you as a staff, it goes through one person, and that's myself. We have hundreds of people on the back end that's gonna take care of you.
But they would just have to come to you.
Just come to me. I would be the point of contact. I would be the one going to your department heads, gathering this information, and I would present the analytics to the council each month, saying this is what we've done, this is who's looked at it, this is the gains that we've made, what changes we recommend, and we're very transparent. We're here.
So you would be accountable for
Yes,
anything? and
like I
everything.
am every day. If you have a phone call, who do you call?
Ghostbusters.
You call me, right? And I get it fixed.
Yes, sir.
I don't think any of y'all have ever called me and I haven't answered the phone, except for maybe this one there.
Mr. Crisp, anything else?
No, I'm good right now. Thank you.
Mr. Molina?
No questions.
Russell, aside from Bartlettsville, Arkansas, are there any other municipalities that
Yes,
y'all take
there
care
was
of?
someone that was supposed to be here and she got delayed in Houston that had a list of other, because we have 533 newspapers across the country. We're the largest media country in the nation. We do this for many towns across the country.
Okay.
And Bartlettsville is one that she had mentioned that I remembered, but yeah, she got stuck in Houston and because of the weather or something, so.
Nobody in
but-
South
but-
Texas by chance that stuck?
We only have, you're the first ones we have in South Texas. We have the paper here, and we have some in the valley. We have not gotten into that partnership with the McAllen papers and things of that nature for the cities down there.
Okay.
It's all about relationships and being invested in your community. And there's not a lot of newspapers that have the tenure that we have. The other day I told someone, my rookie in Alice has been there 13 years. And we have the relations, we know everybody, we worked with everybody, we're involved in the community, and we're a partner in this community.
Okay, Cal? No? No? Okay.
Can't wait to see y'all Thursday night. We got 700 people coming. The nice thing is we got about 240 businesses that's going to be represented there.
Very good.
And for your hot funds, we got about 20 heads and bids in the hotels.
Very good. Thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Agenda item number 8, here presentation from Bar Z Mobile Development regarding mobile app solutions and other services for City of Alice.
Mayor, so we met with Councilman Crisp and I and Jim, met with Mr. Little, was it? Mr. Little?
Yes,
Yeah.
Lee Little.
Okay. With Bar Z and give us presentation. This is an app, and one of the apps that cities that use them is Granbury, and that's what's included in your packet. So this is also a piece, we have our website running, but we're looking at using an app also, and the app has our own website as well. But for information purposes, we want to get information out. Not only do we want to use social media, but we want to have an app presence. That way we can utilize it more for something like Citizen Request Tracker, which Granbury does. So if somebody has a concern or they have you know, what he talked about is, you know, potholes. They can report potholes. They can report if there's a weedy lot that they want to do, something of that sort. And there's, you know, a tool built into there to be able to notify us of things that are happening, and then we're able to record keep. But there's also some other things that it'll do. It's kind of almost like a landing page on a lot of things, because from there, if you do want to have information, you know, you call it a node where you landed a node, and it's a one-page informational page. So we want to have the hours of the natatorium or the hours at the golf course, or when is the library open. They can go to that app and just open it up and see it right then and there. Now, right now, you know, it's trying to keep it centralizing, like we're talking about on a website, get everything in one place. And from here, if something's posted here, it can also get posted to Facebook, Twitter, and those things. And so this is also something that we're considering. It's not very expensive. I think per year it was to do $4,000 to $6,000 per year, and they manage the whole. It's leasing software from them for that, but they're also managing the whole app. Or you can kind of do it yourself, and it's a lease program of, I think.
$10,000 a year, plus $1,000 startup. It was $1,000 a month, $1,000 startup, or $10,000 a year. But that allows us to sell the advertising. If we do the cheaper one, they get to keep the advertising dollars, but we get to oversee what actually gets advertised on it. One of the things about this application, real quick too, is that it allows us to partner up with other branches of government within the city, and not just government. It can be the EDC, it can be the chamber, it can be the county, the school, and from this we can display data on each individual one, or they can actually buy in and become part of the application as well. Not only that, but it also shares any of your data that is being managed within the city. They can have access to it directly as well. So if they want to see the meeting minutes, if they want to do a link to the YouTube to watch the minutes, they can do links. They can pay their bills on it, send out requests. We can partner up with, you know, if the city wanted to start displaying everything, all the lots that we have for sale, we can actually go in here, create a node that displays everything that the city owns, that we're, you know, trying to get rid of. There's just a lot of things that come up along with alerts. So the same situation that comes up, if they happen to have the app, we can do, you know, route XYZ, had trouble today, it's going to be a delayed pickup. If there's, heaven forbid, hurricane or tornado warnings, of course you get them on your phone already, but we can do that. If there's a sale and we're going to do a $5 day at the natatorium, boom, it pops up as well if we wanted to do a push notification like that. So we can do push notifications, but it's another branch to become a centralized service to display to those who truly care about the city, you know, who download this app, who want to know more. We can centralize everything and give it to them all in one place as well. You know, when you look at the fact that almost 1.6 billion smartphones were sold in the world last year, I mean, this is the way things are going. Social media, the majority of them look at it on their smartphone as well. This is just another media for us to be able to convey to our citizens all the same exact data that they can get from our website, they'll be able to get from this place or the other. They can have it right here and there. If they want to search for an ordinance, they should be able to have access to it on the smartphone as well. And it pops up as a PDF. So it's just things like that that we'll be able to offer to the citizens at a very, very low price point, along with push notifications, coupons, whatever we want to do as a city. If you have the app, you get a discount today at the golf course or whatever, you know what I mean? So there's just things that we can always do.
Yeah, and the same thing on the modules you have here. You can have it's going to have windows if you want to have the chamber have a window, or the EDC have a window also, where they can, or the county as well. So somebody can click there and go to that, to their box if they wanted to. And so we started the discussions on it and how we'd like to proceed. You know, you can sell advertising on it as well, but I'm looking at it like, if it's going to be our app, I want, and I think it's well worth the money to have our main page right there, and it's for citizen engagement also, and have a place where they can go, and we can still give information to all the other social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, and those, but a place where if somebody says, hey, I just want to know what's going on here, I want to be able to get notifications and encourage downloading the app. This is a way to do it as well, and it works. Work in conjunction with a website, because if we need to send something out there, it's gonna take them to the website.
Very good.
So another thing that we're tossing around, trying to see how we're gonna put all these things together.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, we keep talking about these partnerships with these other and putting these nodes out there. There's a big difference in what we're talking about and them buying in. So if the city supports this and city buys this and we decide we're gonna put the county or the chamber as a node, they get one basic window with displayed information. And now once the county or something decides to buy in, then it becomes a full-fledged application the same way as ours. There's a big difference. The city is gonna own this. The city's gonna be the main thing on it. The city's covering the bill, but if we wanna partner with the school, we can have a link that talks about our schools and all the different things there, and maybe a link to their website, but it's just a limited to one page type of deal. If they want to go beyond that, the school can buy in and say, hey, we want to be a part of the city's app, and then they can get a link that basically gives them the full works also. So there's a limit there, and I didn't want to seem like we're getting more than we would be getting if we decided to partner up with these. So I just want to put that expectation out there as well.
Do we have Bar Z Mobile Development here?
No, they
to-
didn't.
to present? No?
No, it was misstated. It should have just been about
Where is this company out of?
Austin.
Austin.
They've done about 500 applications so far for cities and so forth.
How many?
About 500. I had misstated earlier, 700. They've been in business since maybe 10 years or so. So they've been doing things for a while.
Jim, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think we should probably invite him down to do
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Council, any questions for?
I would encourage, real quick, if you go into your app store, you can download I Love Granbury, Texas.com, just to kind of mess with it, play with it. It works on both smartphone, Androids and Apple. And that's just one of many, you know what I mean? But that's kind of like the same as an Alice, Texas type size and focus that y'all can look at, but you can just
Did
download
they
it.
give
and mess
y'all
with
a,
it.
I'm sorry, sir. Did they give y'all a proposal of any sort, or no, that was just kind of, just an informal?
Yeah, and Pete, it's for the inclusive, it was 6,000 a year. I thought it was 1,800 if they just lease 1,800 a year if they just lease us the.
No,
software.
the one was, it cost us more. It was the $1,000 setup. They come in and they get your information, they set it up for you, and then they hand the code off.
Right.
And it was $10,000 for the year or $1,000 a month because they lose all advertising dollars. So that's why it costs us more, because now we're responsible if we want to sell advertising and do this and the other. So,
But now, would they just give it to us and then we have to have staff now
No.
doing this?
the cheaper route, which is the route that I would say that we should probably look at going, they manage it. Now, we do have people in-house, which would probably be somebody like Gatehouse or somebody here that can post something right away or send out a notice right away through the app, but they manage it. I mean, they've been doing it. That's what they do. It's the same situation where we don't have to do it. Now, after 3 years, if we want to take it over because Jim now knows how to run the whole thing, we can switch to products and take over,
And sell
advertising and everything like that. But, I mean, when you start, leave it to the people who know how to do the job. And it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Bowen, any questions for them?
No, that was my main thought, was for the $6,000 a year, who would be maintaining it and selling the ads and all that?
Plus, you get all the updates.
Right, okay.
So when you do the $1,000 a year type of thing, you really only get, $1,000 a month, you really only get updates like once a year when you're renewing. When they manage the whole thing, if Android puts out another update for their Samsung, they make sure it works for the Samsung. And then you get the updates and they maintain it and they control it and everything. So you're never really gonna fall behind because they get that information before they release it.
When you say Samsung, what do you mean?
I'm talking about the Samsung app. So if Samsung puts an update out for their operating system, they make sure that the app is going to work on your phone, continue to work on your phone.
But it says Apple too, and
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I just said that as an example. It works for Apple, Google,
Android.
all of them, yes.
I guess the best thing would be for them to come in and get more of a concrete.
Yeah.
On the spot.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of cheap for something so valuable, I think. Right? 6,000.
Well, the
That's
thing
less
is, they
than
built The big thing is they've built their
That's
software,
less than 1,000 a year.
and they.
I mean,
so
a month.
How he explained it to me was, is they've already built their software. They've used their software repeatedly, and for them to do the job that we need, it's only a couple hours a week. So you're paying them to just do a couple hours a week worth of work. You need a post done? Okay, update takes them 10, 15 minutes. So it doesn't add up to a lot of work. It's not somebody there managing it the whole time, because it doesn't have to be managed the whole time until an update needs to be done. So you're paying for a couple hours a week, basically. It's a big difference. And they just want their software out there. And then they have a whole marketing team that comes in, and they'll hit up every restaurant in town and try to sell marketing to them to be on the app. So that's the way they make their money too.
I would just hate it be one of these, and no down talking on anybody, but just one of these companies that they give you a facade, but they're really advertising companies where they make their advertising their money on the dollar.
Well, and
And
that's
so-
where we wouldn't,
At this point, I think I'm gonna intercede because we're outside of our agenda item that Bar Z did not show up. And
Yeah.
then it
Oh, they did not
talks
show
about-
up.
it Talks about here presentation from Bar Z. And I
Right.
think you guys can have some discussion, but now we're starting to deliberate into things.
Right.
Potentialities, probably.
So were
better-
they supposed to show up and they didn't, or?
I think we misstated it.
Yeah,
He had
we
offered to, but we were just gonna talk about it and then see if y'all even wanted to come
yeah,
back.
we were gonna see if he was gonna be able to make it, and he was gonna be somewhere else today, and so, yeah,
So we cut.
yeah.
Please,
So we'll move on.
Okay.
please.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, moving on, thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to agenda item number 9, discuss railroad quiet zones, including needs, timeframes, public hearings, and future dates of discussions.
Mayor and council, I had a long conversation last week was thinking that the other guy was Little, this guy is D. Lights, Mr. Lights with the railroad. And there's been talk about quiet zones, and you guys have certainly talked about it before, making some headway onto whether it's something that we want to consider. And wanted to give you all an update on what it's going to take to do it. A lot of people think that it's always automatic street closings. It doesn't have to be. So one of the things that we talked about, and it's in your packet, is there's like 3 things you have to meet. You have to have flashers and gates at every crossing, power off indicators at the crossings, and there's that little small building at every crossing as well. There's a light on top, and if you look at it, you can see when it's on and not. And then a constant warning system. So there's also in these rails, they send electricity through back and forth, and that's how they know how far they are based on their speed, things of that sort. So we have to meet those kind of things. We also will have to do a risk assessment and see where we score. And if I remember correctly, it's, for example, if we score 1,600, 1,300 is where we can consider being a quiet zone. Then we have to mitigate down to 1,300. And so some of those things are going to be if you do have too many crossings and you close some of them, then that'll bring your score down. If you have some medians, so somebody can't cross a median and go through and cross a crossing that way, like I've seen people do before.
Right.
That's a way of mitigating those kind of risk. So all these things, it takes a considerable amount of time, but I wanted to kind of hear from you guys on your thoughts of trying to establish a quiet zone. If that's something, that we want to consider, if it's going to take some considerable amount of time and work, and I wanted to get kind of a feel if that's something that I need to put time and effort into. The train goes through here blowing their horn quite a bit. I know that if you live anywhere near here, you're going to hear them. People say, well, I don't hear it anymore, but they probably get out of the REM sleep and not knowing because they do blow their horn pretty loud. But they will, if there are street closings, they will pay for them. I think they start off at $50,000 per closing. They'll be here tomorrow, actually, and I'm going to visit with them more on getting more specifics. But to give you an idea, I believe San Diego is getting some closed, and what they offered is either cash or they'll oversee a project for that amount of cash. And I believe they're going to try to do maybe some street work in San Diego for the street crossings. For them, it's worth money to not have it because they have equipment that they have to maintain regularly. So it's something to, I just wanted to bring it up to you guys and kind of get your thoughts.
Okay. Mr. Molina?
I'm for it. Sure. I'm for looking into it. Why not? It's out, kind of annoying.
Mr. Chris?
I don't think it hurt. Might as well do it.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, I appreciate you tackling the issue because it seems like in the past, there's been a reluctance to deal with all the bureaucratic regulations and laws, et cetera, but I am very favorable to you looking into it, as I have been for
Right.
several years.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree as well, and there are some streets that we could close, I mean, so, yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and from talking to the gentleman, we've talked about it for a long time, and so our city clerk got a hold of Mr. Lights. His first name is David? D.
It's Danny.
Danny, there you go. Danny Lights.
He calls himself D.
And so,
D lights.
yeah, and so he was very helpful, and one of the things when you're dealing with a big organization like that is finding the right person.
Right.
And that'll lead you the right way. And so, yeah, I'll bring it back as an agenda item once we start moving forward and seeing where we are on the risk and see what it's going to take to be able to establish that quiet zone. And certainly, we'll have to do some work to establish our risk number. But once we get that done, it'll be before you on a future agenda then.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. As you know, you and I have had several meetings on that. We have our high-rise residents, and then we have our Bordeaux residents who are directly affected by the terrain. And to me, the more we can close for safety issues, the better, to do a complete closing, but of course, having access, but just for safety reasons. But I know we already have a lot of these things that are requirements for a quiet zone that are already in place.
The gates, the flashers,
Yeah.
I believe we have the power off indicators.
Yeah.
The constant warning, and he said tomorrow when we meet, he'll look at it.
Good.
And we probably meet in one of those. We just need to do all the work that it takes to do the risk assessment.
Right.
And there's some, engineering work that we have to do to fill out all their forms that they have. And so, but yeah, I think we'll come close to, if not be high enough on the risk where they won't allow it.
Right.
Of course, one thing he said is, if there's something in the way, if there's an emergency, of course, they're gonna
Right.
honk their horn. This is just if everything's going and looking good and going well, then it is a quiet zone.
I think that would be fabulous. It would also help with road closings when we do our get-togethers, that we end up having to close some of these. I would think those are excess, but I'm sure y'all will look into that. But thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mr. Esparza. Any other questions, council?
No.
Okay. Agenda item number 10, discuss water distribution system needs, including repair and replacement, cost estimates, financing methods, timeframes, and discuss wastewater collection system needs, including repairs and replacement, cost estimates, financing methods, timeframes, and discuss Texas Water Development Board projects.
All right, I had this same agenda item today at the Water Authority meeting, so we talked to them about where we are in. I know most of you, or I know you guys know that we have needs on our distribution system and our wastewater collection. And what I wanted to do is have it as an agenda item right now so we can talk about where we're trying to get to and where we are right now as far as right now what we have is our distribution system on water. So there's several things that happen in the course of the year. We have sometimes taste and odor issues in the water that can be caused by an algae bloom or lake turnover and things like that. We also have the off-color water that happens because our distribution system is so old. And one of the ways that we're talking about taking care of that, of course, is Texas Water Development Board projects. We have a desal project that we worked on. Barbara's been in front of you guys a lot on some of these, but I wanted to bring it all together. Our website and an app and social media is put all together. We're trying to do this here too. So we have distribution system needs, wastewater collection needs. Of course, we're going to have street needs once we start working on those. And we have to find a way to pay for these things. How much are they going to cost? This is a a little bit general agenda items so we can get the ball rolling on, these things are something that we're gonna be looking at 10-year projects, 15-year projects, 30-year projects. But what Joe Salisbury has been working on is our distribution system and how much of it is new. And when I say new is PVC, and how much is old that has either galvanized or iron pipes or even asbestos pipes and things of that sort. So you want to show that map to kind of get an idea? It's put a lot of work into this, and it's not that easy. It's pretty tedious, but it's
Michael, you want me to pass these on?
yeah.
It's a citywide map, so there's quite a bit to the citywide. And this was pulled off the knowledge of our maintenance and construction lead. What we're looking at here is iron and steel. And what's in blue is PVC.
Blue PVC,
Yes, sure.
iron and steel is red.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
And then there's these dash lines, those are coated, asbestos coated.
Coated lines. And so coming from our plant, there's one of the main trunk lines that goes down Texas Boulevard. That was a big project, an expensive project, but that included PVC all the way down Texas Boulevard. And so from there, and we haven't put the actual miles to it, but how much is new? But total, Joe, you think we have about how many miles of lines?
There's probably 100 miles there.
Okay.
And just looking at this, it's probably between 60, 65 miles of probably iron and cast, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And these, so things have been done in the past to try to fix the problems that we have. On the water side, no doubt that we're having some pipes that we go over and over to a certain street. So we replace the line, and you can see how that's kind of been done in some areas, but we still have water going through some of the old pipes. So some of that causes the off color. Specifically, we talked about having when the hookah lounge and the fashion hair, that fire that we had to put a lot of water into, really shook up the distribution system down there. And so, if there's PVC lines, you're not going to have the rust inside, and you're not going to have the movement. And so we had calls about that day and the next few days about some off-color water. And so we really want to take care of that issue. And some places are worse than others. But we need to try to gauge that as well, because long-term we need to figure out how we're going to, replace 65% of our lines. And this is not a 2, 3, 5-year project. It's probably not even a 10-year project because of the cost. So in the next few months, we're going to be coming together and trying to figure out a solution for it. This is just giving you an idea of where we are and what we're looking at. And so on the wastewater collection side, we have, probably a similar situation. So he's working on the wastewater side also, and we'll have that same map showing what's been replaced and what needs to be replaced. But we're constantly, we have a crew, and where's Joe? There's Joe out there. So every day, Joe Signs and his crew are fixing water and sewer lines every single day. And so it's happening, but it seems like we're to a point where probably the failure rate is going too high as opposed to compared to what we can replace. So we need to do something to replace them at a lot quicker speed than we're doing right now. These things, they're not cheap to do. We're talking about, financing methods, and there's Roland here. Oh, there's Roland. So, how do we pay for these? What typically happens is your water lines and your wastewater lines are typically revenue bonds that get paid for out of your utility fund, and the numbers that we need are probably going to be greater than you can get from a ratepayer probably, so that's why there needs to be alternative methods of financing as well. And so Roland's working with our financial advisor to try to figure out those as well. There are all these things are going to come together in the next 4 or 5 or 6 months to come together to say, here's a plan on how we're going to get all this done. Right now, they're in a lot of different places. I wanted to also talk about how do we cure. The distribution system will help cure the off color, but it doesn't really do anything for the taste and odor that happens because of where we get our water. So, you know, we know that our water comes from Lake Mathis, Lake Corpus Christi. We pump it down. It's surface water. We treat it, and our Lake Finley can have issues with lake turnover, can have algae blooms. A lake that small typically doesn't have turnover, but a lake that small usually doesn't get water introduced from somewhere else. And we're introducing water all the time to Lake Finley. We keep it because we use 3.5 million gallons a day on average, and so we're constantly going from 191 feet above sea level to 192. So we're moving it, and there's a lot of movement is there. And so that gets us to the other part that we've been talking about is part of the Water Development Board loan on a desal plant. And I have, is Mr. Norris here? Yeah, Bill Norris with Norris Leal, and wanted him to talk about the desal plan as well and how it's going to work as we move forward on it.
Can we get the larger one? Good evening, Mayor and council members. First of all, I wanted to talk about desalination. First of all, there's a lot of confusion about desalination, that people think that desal is strictly ocean desalination. So I don't want people to think, oh no, this is too expensive, and that's a myth, that we're actually taking groundwater, which is brackish. So ocean water is 10 times more salty than the brackish water that we're projecting. So the higher the salt content, the more power it costs to actually treat that. So we'd be treating at 150 pounds of pressure. Seawater would be 900 pounds of pressure. So increased power costs. So just want to make sure that there's no misconceived notion that we're taking seawater. We're actually taking brackish water. A little history on the project. This was actually, we did a study about 4 years ago related to alternative water supplies. And this was actually drought driven, if you recall. 2011, 2012, Lake Corpus Christi was getting pretty low, if you recall. And so this spurred the study to look at finding an alternative source of water. And that was the driving force. But after we finished the report, not only is it a drought-proof water supply, it was actually cheaper, and the city actually saved money in a drought condition by converting over to brackish desalination. So, so that was really, it was a good project regardless of drought. And so the project itself, as you can see on the plant, excuse when you blow up the Google map, but on the plant site, you can see there's a building, a little rectangle. That houses a 3 MGD brackish treatment plant. And so what 3 MGD does for the city is, if you're averaging 3.5 million gallons a day, we would actually supplement that water source with the surface water source. And you would basically reduce the amount of water that you buy from Corpus Christi. And that reduction of water purchase would pay for the desalination plant. Because one, you have cost of the purchase of the water, you've got losses in Lake Finley, evaporation and seepage losses, and you have treatment costs associated with that, and pumping all the way from Lake Finley is an expense. So with all those factors in mind, the brackish desalination plant would be your main supply of water, and it would also be more cost effective and give you 2 sources of water, and it would be completely drought proof. The water quality would be enhanced greatly. It's just like your bottle quality water coming from the tap. And you're in charge of your own destiny as City of Corpus Christi raises rates, then you're not affected by that. So many municipalities would love to have a dual source of water that's not related to the drought. So be happy to answer any questions related to the project.
Yeah, so, we budget $1.8 million for water purchases. Now, one of the things that happens, and we use kind of round numbers when we're talking with the water authority also, it's not exact. It could be, we may lose 40%, 45%, but for round numbers, we kind of lose half of it to evaporation. So, even though whatever we produce, whatever our cost is producing out of our treatment plant, the water costs twice as much as we pump it in to Lake Finley, and it evaporates. So another thing is that where we keep our water level is at 191 feet is when Demetrio turns on the pump. It says I got to get to 192, and we were trying to figure out why are we using 191 to 192. Is Demetrio here? There he is. It's like, it's one of those things that gets passed on and passed on. Well, when we looked at the numbers, 191 gives us about 30 days of water at Lake Finley. 192 gives about 60. So that's probably why we use those numbers. But if we're using 90% less water from Lake Finley, we don't necessarily have to have the lake level at 191 and 192. We can drop it down almost to keep the same days of capacity. You may be able to get down to 188, 187. So there could be times where we don't pump water. So if we had a plant run in today, this 3 MGD plant, and budget time came around in August, and you're asking me how much you want to budget for water purchases, I would probably say $200,000, not 1.8 million anymore. And so that's where we have money to fund debt service. From the water authority side, some of the numbers that we've looked at, and we're looking at rough numbers. We did a rough calculation today, and so on the high end that they figured is, well, maybe this is going to cost us, even with all that and free debt service, it may cost us about $600,000 a year. And so what does that get you? Well, if it does cost that much, what that's getting you is a secondary or a primary source of water, and our plant being the secondary source, and so we're truly, drought resistant. The number that Mr. Norris has is this year it would be about a $252,000, something like that, additional cost, and that's because the water authority says being pretty conservative, but so is Mr. Norris on his cost estimates as well. The desal plant can help take us away from the taste and odor issues. There's not any algae bloom. There's not lake turnover. But we still have the distribution system to cause some of the issues with the off color. So it's something that we're in the process of looking at that. We have the Water Development Board loan that is a $5.5 million loan, Barbara. We have 3 that we're working on right now. The $5.5 million is the one that's going to be on the Water Development Board agenda in July. And then we have PIFs out on the other ones.
We have a PIF out for phase 2 of this project, and that's the project information form. Texas Water Development Board is evaluating all the PIFs for drinking water, revolving fund, and clean water. Next month, Texas Water Development Board should be publishing a draft intended use plan, so we'll be able to see where our PIF for phase 2 ranks among all the other drinking water projects, and where our clean water project ranks with all the clean water projects.
So all in all, we have 2 that relate to desalination. And then 1 that relates to wastewater and potentially water meters.
Correct.
Right. So these are all things that are in the works right now. They're not finalized, but here pretty soon, once again, we're gonna have to come and make some decisions on to make, let's be firm on where we want to go and how we want to get there. And part of it is, you know, there was talks with the Water Authority about, do we need to do the desalination now? If that's not going to take care of the distribution system or the off color that we potentially have at times, maybe we should wait. But then again, we also waited when we first started talking about it was when there was a drought. And we don't control our own water. We purchase it from Corpus Christi. Now, if we're at 3.5 million gallons a day, it's going to be there's a slight chance we may not have to pump, but we have been pumping, and we have been for years. There's probably been a couple of years where we had some really good rains upstream, and Lake Finley filled up pretty well. But those are things that you know, we don't control our water from Corpus Christi. They pull from the river. They also have a secondary source to get water from, which is the Mary Roads pipeline. But as long as they're pulling from the Nueces River, we know that we can get water because they have to open it up. But what if they don't need it from the Nueces River? The other thing that happens is they're looking at desalination as well, I believe, of Gulf water. You know, they've got to figure out a way to pay for that also. Our rates can go up. We don't control necessarily our rates. We have the ability to pump whenever we want. We don't have any minimums, but the rates can increase as needed. So we're beholden to somebody else for our water. If we look at desal and how the technology is kind of advanced and it's not as expensive as it sounds, we would control our own water supply, and it would be uninterrupted. It'd be drought free. It'd be bottle quality water. And so those are things that we need to consider as we really secure and say we're going to go into debt this much, and is this one going to pay for itself or is it not? Where are we going to get the money? How you know, are we going to have to adjust rates? We are working on a rate study right now to bring that in front of you guys as well. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to our distribution system, our wastewater collection, our water, but we're trying to bring them all together and make sure we have a plan and a clear path forward. Long term, I think we have to guess. Well, I don't even want to guess how long it's going to take for both water and wastewater, but in the next couple of months, we'll have some better ideas and some firm numbers. But this is an agenda item that's going to come up over and over, and it'll get more specific over time.
Council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
No questions.
Mr. Chris?
Real quick, just to kind of clarify things, we're looking at this in a couple of different folds, right? You're looking at it from the distribution side being the actual pipes, this map that shows the 65% iron and steel versus the actual supply side. So you're saying that if we fix one side, which is, let's say, the distribution side, which is something that we would have to definitely loan, figure out how to fund, that would, that's a lot of pipe, that's a lot of time, that's a lot of roads that we tear up. That's why we're looking at a long-term plan. That would clear up, just call it the color of the water, right? The discoloration of it. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, by doing this desal plant, we can clear up the taste, the odor, but by the time it gets to the houses, we've got the color back. Mm-hmm. So it's really this thing that we're trying to figure out the two sides of everything to make it work all together. Now the desal, by what you said, is an option that potentially could pay majority of it for itself. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm just kind of restating things because putting it all back together kind of clears things in my head. So we're really just kind of trying to figure out how we can do these things together or simultaneously so that we're not necessarily giving better water and destroying it on the way, or just distributing the same water over pipes slowly and steadily. So, I look forward to actually seeing what you put together, because this is not a small task by no means, and this is not going to be, sorry to say it, it's not going to be cheap. Mm-hmm. This is an endeavor that's going to cost quite a bit of money when you're talking about 65 miles of road and line and a new well and station. So.
And we've got to figure out a way to try to pay for it that's going to have the least impact on our taxpayers, the least impact on the ratepayers, and how far can we stretch it out to be able to, Joe and I were talking today, Joe Salisbury, about can we find the areas that we can do quicker, and which areas can you wait 10, 15, 20 years? Where do we have the newer iron? And, you know, sitting together, we'll come up with some ideas, but it definitely is gonna take some time. Another thing to consider is, and Bill's still here, he can speak to it, is why wouldn't we look at the Evangeline and the groundwater that we have that's not so deep as a Jasper, that's not brackish? And so I wanted him to talk about that also.
Well, the Evangeline is shallow, but we projected we have 2 wells. The layout that I showed you has 2 wells to provide 3 million gallons a day. We projected we'd take 20 wells to provide the same amount of water from the Evangeline because of the shallow nature, the drawdown of the aquifer, and they have to be separated apart. So if you probably drilled one in the Evangeline, you might get, let's say, 300,000 gallons a day. But the second well, 2,000 feet apart, reduce that capacity to 250. You add another well, reduces the overall capacity each well. As you add more wells, it reduces capacity because it draws down the whole zone and you can't pump as much. So that's why, and plus the water in the Evangeline in 90% of the locations in Alice would have to be treated anyway. There's a few sections that in Alice where it comes up relatively fresh, but the overall aquifer zone in this area would still need to be treated. And so you don't gain anything, and if you have to spend that much money on 20 wells, it's going to be much more costly with pipelines and pumping capacity. So.
And I believe one of the reasons why we probably got off the wells was the high salt in the wells. And I heard from some older people in town saying, yeah, the grass used to turn yellow. And so the Water Authority 60-some years ago, decided to do something real bold. And it's worked, and it's worked well. But, you know, it was very expensive at the time, and have a pipeline from Lake Corpus Christi and to Lake Findlay. And there's 2 pipelines, a 30-inch pipeline and a 20. But if we needed to replace one right now, that would cost as much as a desal plant. We're looking at the $20 million price range for a pipeline all the way over there. But we're making repairs to our pump station at Lake Corpus Christi, and our treatment plant is in good condition. We're still making repairs to it, but it's an ongoing challenge. But we certainly don't want to get rid of it. We want to keep it there. It gives us additional capacity if we ever need it as well.
Michael, you know, we discussed today about the consistent, when you have a varied water quality coming from the lake, then that affects your amount of rust and things that come from the treatment. Whereas the brackish, you're not going to have much variability in that. And I talked to my partner, Jesus, who is a chemical engineer, and I talked about the issue. He couldn't make the meeting today, and he says, well, you know, just about every city has that. So, but what we do is at the end of the plant, we add a corrosion scale inhibitor, and what that does is it coats your existing pipelines to where nothing comes from it. So you add the inhibitor, and so but it gives you kind of it covers up everything on the pipeline, so it would minimize the amount of rust that you would have from there. So he said that's what we've done in other locations.
As we're replacing as we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mr. Crisp, anything
That's
else?
it. Thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No question.
Ms. Bowen?
Yes. When you mentioned the fund debt service will benefit, you know, having a second source of water, you said it was 1.8 million that we have in our budget now?
We budget for water purchases, yes.
Water purchases, 1.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we do this, it would probably bring it to what, 3, 4?
If we were only drawing 400,000 gallons a
Yeah.
day, we figured that we would just budget $200,000 for water purchases.
See, in the long run, it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we will benefit from it. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see what else
Mhm.
comes to the table. And I appreciate all your hard
Yeah.
work. I mean, this is exciting. It's not going to be an easy task, like you said, and finding the funding for it too, but I think it's doable.
And the funding, Michael, would be around?
Well,
I know it's huge ballpark, but
I'll give you an idea on a potential, when we talked about this today. If we're looking at a number, and I believe Robert McIntyre just walked in, we were looking at a $600,000 number from the Water Authority meeting this morning. Mr. Norris has a plus $250,000 number, but we go with the $600,000 additional cost. And if we just look at adjusting the rates, that's about it's about $6.75 on every water bill, is what that would cost if we needed to fund that 600. We could have the additional, we're saying we're budgeting 200 for water purchases. If we go down to the level where we think we'll need to be, and we don't even use the 200, there's a large portion of it right there as well. So, that water purchase fund that we budget may not get used. It just depends on the year and what comes into the lake, because we're only drawing 10% of the water from Lake Finley now instead of 100%. So yeah, that kind of will give you an idea of, at worst case, what it would cost.
And this would just be for the distribution system?
No, that would just be for the desal.
Just the desal plant?
Right.
So then we would still need an additional.
Oh yeah, the distribution system numbers are now total. It's a huge number. We're going to try to replace everything, but it would be in phases. It wouldn't be something that would be all up front at once. And those numbers we're going to have to, get our engineering department to work on the actual dollar amount or a good estimate on that. I couldn't even give you an estimate right now. I wouldn't want to give you an estimate because we haven't added everything up yet. But we will in the next couple of months.
So we would have to ask for patience if we were able to do this from our citizens, because it wouldn't be an instant fix.
Yeah.
Make that very clear, that it would not be an instant fix. It would be years' time.
Long-term.
And
It's a long-term plan that needs to get done. We need a plan for the funding of it and in stages and phases and find the best way to have the least impact on the taxpayer, yeah.
But I love that we're getting the ball rolling.
Right. And with that point, a desal plant had been discussed in years past. How many years ago, and what stopped it at that time? Not to bring up the past, but just because I know it was.
It was 14 when we were wondering if we were a foot from not being able to have water at Lake Corpus Christi, and what are we going to do, and how do we become drought resistant, and actually we got a study done from Mr. Norris at the time, and at that time, it was depending on the year and what you pull, it can either cost you a little bit of money or it'll save you money. And at that time, because of what we were purchasing in water, the more you purchase, the more you'll save by going to desal.
Right.
And so.
Our population, it was 2014, you said?
It was 14, I believe.
That's when we were doing well. Population was.
That was halfway down through the decline.
I'm dropping.
2012.
I think it was 14.
You're gonna ask me?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
It was 4 years ago when we finished the report.
So 14, 15, yeah.
I guess the time frame that the city staff went to the Water Development Board, it's taken that long to get that going. So now it's resurrected again because the first phase is being developed by the Water Development Board, and that's not a fast process.
Right.
And another thing that happens when you talk about desal, and Mr. Norris mentioned it, you think desalinated seawater at 30,000 parts per million, and all the pressure that you need for that, and brackish water is not Gulf water, it's not seawater. And I would venture to say, what is a tier has about, maybe the same, no, that's a saltwater pool. But yeah, no, you can have it about the same, 3,000 parts per million as a saltwater pool, so yeah. And that's what maybe the same as what a tier will have in salts. So it's not as scary as what comes out when people think about desalination. And that probably had a factor as well.
Thank you. That's a long time coming and long overdue, and I thank you for your work, and thank you for your work and sticking with it. Thank you so much. That was a lot of work, Mr. Joe. All right, agenda item number 11, discuss outline timeframe and potential election dates regarding charter changes.
This is just to give you guys an idea. This is gonna come up, this agenda is gonna come up again, agenda item, next meeting. But this is what we have as far as some proposed dates of when things are gonna happen. So at a July meeting, plan on having an agenda item where you guys will actually discuss potential changes that you wanna see on a charter. Okay, and, again, if we need a second meeting in August for that, after the August meeting, we need to send those potential changes. In the meantime, we'll send the attorney our charter so you can start reviewing it and see if there's anything in there that automatically needs to be changed to comply with state law. But after the August meeting, we'll send the changes that you guys want to propose to the attorney. He'll review them, send them back in draft form as to how they would probably need to be worded and make sure that it suits with what you guys are looking to accomplish. And then in October, have a second meeting with kind of the firmed up changes. November would probably be a public hearing meeting. And then in January, you would call for an election for May. And the election would have to be called before February 14th. That's if you wanted to have a special election in May for charter changes. If not, we can adjust these timeframes to meet a November, an October, November election. So that's where we are. This is going to come up just like the other one again and again and again. So we'll have these things on the agenda. But it's going to be almost every meeting from here on out. So what I wanted to let you guys know is for our next meeting, kind of have some things that y'all want to already see change, and we'll have an agenda item where y'all can discuss it. If you want to take action on it, we'll have it as an action agenda item, but we'll also schedule the August to have it on there if you want to do a preliminary discussion in July, and then the formal one where you say, yeah, these are the ones that we want to vote on, and you can, however you guys want to do it, to determine is up to you guys. But those are the timeframes that we have for that.
Okay, very good. Council, any questions?
Have you engaged the firm already?
I haven't. We've been communicating, but I haven't sent them an engagement letter. I haven't signed anything yet. But he's been working for us a little bit for free.
Yeah, because I kind of was hoping to see some of their suggestions as well as our suggestions in that July meeting, so that we know we're, both on both sides of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the first meeting is what you guys have talked about in the past already, some of the changes you want to see. So when he reviews it, if there's some, and we're going to send him the charter, there'll be suggestions that he'll have that may need to be done. So we can have that by the August meeting also.
Okay. Well, I just see the quantity of what changes actually need to be made in our charter being very high. I mean, we all know that our charter is very old, and I just see that we're going to have a lot of these things that need to be changed over time. But we don't want to push all of that out at one time. You can't really do that to the voters, because to some it will encourage voters, and then to others it's be like, oh, I have to read through all of this stuff, and it kind of pushed them away. So I kind of wanted to see an idea of, okay, I mean, in 2016, we were listed 43 changes by a committee. You know what I mean? And there's no way we can take that to the citizens and say, these are the 43 things that we need to change in our charter. You know what I mean? So we need to limit it and pull it back and say, these are the things that will affect and can affect our city the most, and these are the things that we need to put forward before the voters for this time around. So just an idea of, that's why I kind of wanted to see that too, because, we have an idea of what we want changed. We know we want changed. But is that really whole priority over what needs to be changed?
What should be changed right now?
So.
Would we be able to put it again on a ballot in November? Like do May and then November? Yeah?
I don't see why not. If we're following the guidelines and the timeframes and the public hearings.
There's no time like the present, because that's another long overdue.
The last change was in 80-something, right? And before that, it was 49, 40?
42 or 1930 something.
Like
it's
that.
ridiculous.
So we're overdue.
Well
we're overdue. Yeah.
Okay. Council, any other, Mr. Molina? Mrs. Bowen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, she cut me off. I'm fine.
She sure did. Nothing, Mr. Molina? Ms. Bowen?
No, when you were listing the time frame, before in August, we send the changes, and in November, there's a public hearing. Again, what is in October? What's
Meet
gonna
with the
happen?
firm.
Meeting with the attorney on the
Oh,
final
meet with the
revisions.
attorney, okay.
And we can modify these a little bit, you know, because the big thing is that we want to meet the May meeting, you have to call the election in the January meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So this is a proposal of when,
Timeline.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That sounds perfect to me, I think. Very good. Mr. Burke?
No.
Okay, council, if there's no other questions, no? Thank you, Mr. Esparza, for
Thank you.
your effort on this. I really appreciate it. All right, agenda item number 12. Discuss, consider, and act upon establishing an ordinance, number 2104, appointing city manager as the records management officer for the city of Alice and repealing ordinance number 1480 through 1090. Mr. Esparza?
Mayor, if you don't mind, can you open 13 at the same time?
Sure.
They're kind of,
Agenda item number 13, discuss, consider, and act upon establishing an ordinance number 2105 for an active and continuing records management program plan for the city of Alice with records scheduling requirement of the Local Government Records Act, which will be submitted pursuant to Local Government Code 203.041A2.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What we're trying to accomplish here is item 13 brought about item 12. So records retention policy, we want to follow the model or the Texas State Library and Archive Commission records control schedule. So we have files in a lot of different places. We're trying to clean up a lot of things, and it's a nonstop kind of task. But our city clerk, you wanted to show them that stack. That is the record retention policy that it's not. We didn't include it in your packet, but it's if you want to flip through it.
That's just one.
That's the state library.
That's the state library. Texas State Library and Archive Commission records control schedule.
Whatever. Just quit wasting time.
And that touches municipal courts, public safety agencies, public works and services. All these apply to us, property taxation, utility services, and records common to all governments. And it's a good model that we need to follow. It has all the dates. We need to find out when we can archive, when we can destroy. We look in there and it's done. We also added, on your agenda, we didn't have this check marked, but EL, which is records of elections and voter registration. If we don't keep that, but we have managed our elections in the past,
Right.
in case that ever comes back, we want to have that on file that that we will have that record retention policy. So we added that today, that change. So this will allow us to determine when we're going to start deleting some files. We keep these agendas for so long, you know, we can start shredding them and we keep the minutes. I think minutes are kept indefinitely, but agendas we will have them archived and what we found when we were there, we needed to have an ordinance for appointing someone as a records management officer, and there is one that was done back in 1990. And so the reason we're updating it is because it refers to an old section of local government code. And so this does say Roel Valadez or his successors in office, but it doesn't reference the right local government code anymore. So that's why we're updating the ordinance.
Very good. Council, any questions on agenda item 12 and 13?
I noticed that you didn't put successors on this. Heaven forbid we have any. I'm just
Yeah, we
saying.
should have it.
It's there.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Michael Esparza, his current manager is Michael Esparza.
Oh, there it is, right there. I see. That's
It's
sorry,
right
sorry,
after.
sorry. Sorry, I don't plan on there being any, but, huh?
Don't freak me out.
But-
No, it's there.
He's
Okay,
just
good.
dotting
I
his
made sure
I's.
that it was there.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't necessarily
I
want it
saw.
to be there. I'm just CYA, you know?
Yeah.
And that huge document is why we have people in place to do the job. Because there's no way that the five of us sitting up here could even cover the bases of stuff like that, so, yeah. I'm done.
For us, it's nice to have a place, one place to go to, and any department can go to it, and this is what we're gonna, how long we're gonna keep them. It's there.
Thank you. Mr. Burke? Ms. Bowen? No. After you read that whole thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll get right
we'll
back.
wait.
Reader.
Okay, council, if there are no further questions, agenda item number 12.
Mayor, go ahead, Rob.
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve ordinance number 2104, appointing city manager as the records management officer for the city of Alice, and repealing ordinance number 1480-1090.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion stands as stated. Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 13.
Take a motion.
Agenda item number 13, I'll entertain a motion at
I'd
this
like
time.
to make a motion for approval of ordinance number 2105 for an active and continuing records management program plan for the city of Alice with record scheduling requirement of the Local Government Records Act, which will be submitted pursuant to Local Government Code 203.041A2.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 14, discuss, consider, and act upon approval of the City of Alice Equal Employment Opportunity Plan.
Mayor and council, we had an equal opportunity plan, but it expired and needs to get reviewed, I believe, every year, every couple of years, Barbara, right? And so that, when we apply for some of these federal grants, they ask for our plan. And so before you, we have a equal employment opportunity plan for your review and for your approval. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
Council, are there any questions on agenda item number 14? Ms. Bowen?
This policy statement that you're signing and these documents will be delivered to each employees for their handbook, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they'll have something that show that
Yeah, verification of receipt.
verification of receipt?
Right, and we'll use that, we'll add it to the other things that they have to sign when they.
Very good, thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Burke?
Any major significant changes from anything of the past that we changed on or?
You know, the old ones we had were, I mean, we've had, I think, 2 versions. This one was our HR specialist brought one, and I made some changes to it that made it a little bit more simple and more straightforward. It was kind of a lengthy document. Yeah.
What was this page? What was
That page is there to show, this is one of the
Okay.
grants that, yeah.
Oh,
That's one of the
okay.
grants that's requiring
Okay,
it.
all right.
So it's a sample of why we need to have it for,
Gotcha.
also for this grant.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it didn't belong there, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why it's there.
Mr. Burke, any other questions?
But it doesn't actually belong in the policy, right?
No, but it's,
Yeah, the pages are just out of,
yes.
okay.
Mr. Crisp, any other questions?
Nope.
Mr. Molina?
Nope.
Okey dokey, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Make a motion to approve the City of Alice Equal Employment Opportunity Plan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, council. And thank you, staff, for getting that together. Agenda item 15, discuss, consider, and act upon adopting a resolution supporting and authorizing the city's application for William Adams School SRTS Sidewalk, 5th Street from Texas Boulevard to Library to the Texas Department of Transportation's TxDOT 2019 Transportation Alternatives Set Aside Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Call for Projects.
Again, good evening, Mayor and Council. TxDOT, in response to the joint call for the TA-SRTS, received 398 preliminary applications, of which our project was one. Those 398 preliminary applications totaled more than $330 million in funding requests. From those 398 preliminary applications, TxDOT has invited 357 to go to step 2, which is the full application or the detailed application, which they call the full application. And we are one of those projects. Joe Salisbury and I did meet with our TxDOT liaison for this program. And then last week, after we submitted the agenda packet, TxDOT did publish the detailed application on their website. So we are starting to look at that and get that ready to submit by the deadline in August. And tonight, we're presenting the resolution that's required to go along with the detailed application. TxDOT expects to announce awards in December. SRTS is 100% federal funding. It's a reimbursement grant program. So if funds are awarded to our project, the city's fiscal year 2020 budget will be impacted. And in your packet, we did provide a Google map showing the proposed sidewalk, and it would be a 5-foot wide sidewalk.
I don't think we have that map.
You didn't?
As I was trying to figure out.
Me too. It says somewhere Google Map, but I'm going, no ma'am, we don't have that. Can we get a copy of that? Or?
I can make a copy. I don't have that either.
Right, nobody has it? No?
No.
We've also talked with the principals of St. Elizabeth and William Adams to ask for letters of support, sent them information on the project so they can prepare letters. We've also talked with Representative Lozano's staff, and they are looking to prepare a letter of support as well.
Good.
And Joe Salisbury, when one of his field trips, surveyed some of the residents along 5th Street, and he has written responses from them, just with the numeric address, but they were favorable responses. So we'll include that in our application as well.
Great job.
One of the things we were considering when we were looking at this one, and this is a first-time application for this grant, we hope to continue to reapply, but we wanted to make sure that it was as much just sidewalk as possible with at least amount of anything else like drainage. There are some areas that we wanted to look at that we're gonna probably be, 50% sidewalk, 50% drainage that we would have to do. And we wanted to see how this, we'd hate to miss out on this grant. Want to get our feet wet with it, see how it works, and see who else gets these grants and what are they, how did this funding year go? And then we'll start looking at other areas that are close to schools that may need to have some drainage work done. And then we'll decide what percent of drainage will they look favorably on. If something only needs 20% drainage, we'll look at that one. If they're okay with something that requires 50% drainage work and 50% sidewalks, then we'll look at that. But that's going to be, hopefully we'll get awarded, and then we'll look at some other places next funding season. But we want to have as good a chance as possible to get it funded.
Right. Mr. Molina, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Chris?
No.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Bowen?
Nope.
Good. Great job, Ms. Barbara and Joe,
thank you.
on going to
Thank
phase
you
2.
very much.
Sorry, you're stuck.
Thank you so much.
Straight off this.
So, Ms. Barber, can you lead us start to finish? Do you have the map?
It's up here. 5th Street.
The proposed sidewalk is on the north side of 5th Street, and it starts from North Texas Boulevard to Dickey, then from Presnell Street to the intersection of North King, and at the intersection of Fifth and North Reynolds, the sidewalk then goes south to the public library. And it's to address the connectivity component of the program, connecting the schools to the public library, to downtown, the county courthouse, the fire station, pediatric clinics, the two that we have downtown.
So that cut right there where William Adams is, it's going from, Texas to Dickey, and then William Adams is there in the middle. And then Catchin there, Presnell goes all the way down to King.
This grant here, this program only allows you to do at least 2 miles within a school range, correct?
The school, right, the schools have to be within 2 miles,
2 miles
right.
of it, so that's as far
Right.
as we could
Could go
right?
with William Adams and St. Elizabeth. Right. And as Mr. Sparza said, you know, we started with this area because it had the fewest other
The drainage and all the other
drainage and moving
Right.
water boxes and things like that.
Like you said, get our feet wet.
Yeah, the original plans we had were, this was not even on the original plan. We had all the other schools where we don't have sidewalks or anything like that. And then as we look further into the grant and those schools, it's like, you know, for us to, they're going to look at it like you're trying to use the grant to your drainage work.
Right.
And by the way, we'll throw a sidewalk. Here, we're using the grant for strictly sidewalks.
Right.
Yeah.
Great, okay.
Council, any questions?
I guess I do have a question. When it comes across, and I know that you haven't done the engineering portion of it yet, but when it comes across, let's say, the St. Elizabeth parking spaces, how does that work? Because where it comes across on Fifth, it comes out of on Fifth Street?
On the north side.
On the north side, and then on the north side there is where the parking, all the angled parking is for
there's
the
already a
church.
sidewalk there.
There's a sidewalk.
There's a sidewalk,
But I'm
yeah.
saying you have it
It'll
marked
tie
as a
into
part
it.
that's gonna be actually done also, right?
No, that's just
That's-
their map.
So would we
It
make
might
that?
just skip that block.
Right. it
Yeah,
would-
okay.
it
Well, I
would
just
skip-
saw that it showed it marked as being done, and I was like, okay.
So they'll tie into that.
So it would just be on either side of it?
It'll be on either side of that.
And we're crossing Texas Boulevard, is that correct?
No.
No.
No, it's going to start on the
Start.
west side of
West side
Texas
of
Boulevard.
Texas Boulevard.
And the east side of the library already has a sidewalk, so that's why we didn't include
Right.
the east side.
Yeah.
We'll develop a
Again,
a
it's a good start.
different map to bring back to you.
Very good. And it'll be bike friendly as well? Bike friendly and pedestrian friendly, or is it gonna be specific, do we know, or?
We haven't
No bikes.
talked about that.
No?
I don't think you're supposed to ride bikes on sidewalks
No.
based upon city ordinance, but it's going to be a wide sidewalk based upon their
5 foot
requirements.
wide.
It's going to have to be a wide sidewalk to allow handicap and other traffic, so pretty much you can do about anything on
Whatever.
it. Yeah,
And
except
we
for
have-
have a car.
We have to follow TxDOT specs.
Right. Okay, nice. Thank you.
You're-
So, council, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to motion to adopt a resolution supporting and authorizing the city's application for William Adams School SRTS sidewalk Fifth Street from Texas Boulevard to the library to the Texas Department of Transportation's TxDOT 2019 Transportation Alternatives Set Aside Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Call for Projects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Barbara.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Agenda item number 16, discuss, consider, and act upon authorizing city staff to submit an application to the HEB Community Investment Program for funds to purchase public computers for the public library.
Mayor and council, of the 26 public computers at the library, 11 are no longer operative, which leaves only 15 still working. Patrons use these computers to help with job searches, filling out employment and other types of applications, doing homework, preparing resumes, tax returns, etc. HEB has a community investment program which provides donations for activities such as education and literacy, hunger relief, health initiatives, social services, environmental programs, diversity, disaster relief, and the arts. And we would like to submit an application to this HEB investment program asking for some funding to help replace some of the 11 computers, public computers at the library. There's no fixed deadline to apply. You just have to apply at least 8 weeks ahead of when you would expect an award if you're awarded. There's no match requirement. The city has been fortunate in the past to receive donations from this program, one of which was $5,000 in 2012 to purchase treadmills for the Alice Public Safety Training Center, $4,000 in 2015 for K-9 equipment and mobile radar units at the police department, and funds in 2018 for an automatic external defibrillator and some other first aid equipment for the multi-use complex. So we're asking for your authorization to submit an application to help with replacing the computers at the library.
Council
And
lady.
Jim, excuse me, I'm sorry, Jim's getting an updated quote for those computers.
Okay. Council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
No questions.
Mr. Chris? Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Bowen? Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city staff to submit an application to the HEB Community Investment Program for funds to purchase public computers for the public library.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. Okay, agenda item number 17, discuss, consider, and act upon implementation of 2019-2020 CBB grant registration form.
Mayor, I asked to put this one on. This is just a follow-up. Phase one from the discussion that we had at the last meeting in regards to getting a better control of the grant process for our CVB entertainment arts funding that we do. This is no change necessarily to the process as it stands for how funds go out right now. This is simply just the first step in gathering the information from the organizations that would like to start applying for funds. So again, we would still come together, we would still look at the application itself, we would still looking at the process itself, the matrix, and how much money we give out. This first level is just to start gathering information on organizations that would like to be listed. So when we do move towards a grant process, they can be contacted in regards to, here's a grant, here's the application, how do you want it? Do you want it emailed? Do you want it delivered? Are you gonna pick it up? And then we can move forward on that. This is, again, not the final application by no means. This is a one-page registration where the application is probably gonna end up moving from a 3-page document like it is now to upwards of probably 10 pages worth of data gathering and prerequisites and post-requisites for receiving the money. So that's all that this is right here. And alongside that, there is just a document for us all to review, to kind of throw some notes back at myself, Ms. Sandra was a part of this as well, and Ms. Barbara all helped on this. But this one is just Texas, basically it takes the tax code and gives it a Cliff Notes version of what it can be used for. It is not, again, the final document on how it can be used. We have to refer to tax code, but this just gives you a brief Cliff Notes and says, the city really can't use money outside of this. So if they say, well, why aren't you using it for streets? Well, it's not, doesn't fall in here in any shape, form, or fashion. So that's all these documents are, and all I was presenting this registration form was so that the staff could actually start getting it out there and we could start gathering information on anybody that would be looking to receive money in the next fiscal year, as opposed to waiting, you know, what we get, some that are 30 days, some that are 60 days, some that are 90 days. I mean, we do get a time frame, but we'd like to know in advance so that we can start better budgeting for it. Not to talk about the process as a whole, but there are changes on that, and I think that there's a lot of other stuff going on in that process and that workflow too.
And if you guys approve this, and what we would do is we would contact everybody that's applied in the past and say, now we have a registration form we'd like you to complete. That way we'll have their information. And when you all do approve a different mechanism for it, we would let them know. You know, it's just, we'd have their information ready and handy, and they know that something's going to change also, or could change.
Okay. Council, any questions? Ms. Bowen?
No, I'm okay. I'm good.
Mr. Burke? Mr. Molina?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. And I'm good, so long as it's just a registration form. I guess this would serve to verify EIN with the organization, and but a basic registration form, not to be confused with an application or process or anything like that. I get it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of kickstart for staff to have that contact information. I would like council to consider having a workshop on this particular topic. It's a huge and very important topic, and I would like to do it correctly and not jump into something quickly, and do it correct, because there's so many options that come with these hot funds that I would like council to really look at, and maybe everybody come together and present ideas that we could use these funds for, in addition to doing maybe a small portion of this.
Right.
Tiny portion to grants, and maybe larger portions to other avenues that this money could possibly do for us. So I would ask that council consider doing a workshop on just CVB for future. And I know it has to be kind of quick because, and I know that has to be probably put on another agenda. But I would.
Well, I would consider it probably something of its own. I think that it should be something of its own so that we can focus on it for about 2 hours.
Yeah. Totally. But I know we have to put it on another meeting, so maybe the next meeting we can set workshop.
Work on that, yeah, sure.
Try to do a workshop date, because I know it has to be done pretty quickly, so that we can be before budget and
We
kind
don't
of.
have to vote on a workshop.
No,
though.
I
A
mean,
workshop can just be set up.
What we were gonna do is just try to work with y'all on some dates and come up with a time and dates to be able to.
Perfect.
To get it together.
So then we don't even have to put it on, okay.
Be a special
Perfect.
meeting.
I would really, I'd appreciate that. It's an important topic to all of us.
Yes, it
I
is.
think, and I think we all want to do it right,
And I think the workshop should focus on, as opposed to what the agenda item itself or the grant process, the workshop could focus on hot funds as a whole, including the grant process.
Right.
So that we can focus on other things as opposed to just, hey, here's what I've got together for the application.
Just
Here's
an
what we've worked
application.
towards this, and here's what we worked towards that. No, how can we actually utilize what this little list of 8, and there's 9. There's actually way more than that, but there's usually 9. One of them we don't even apply. We don't fall anywhere on the population base. So, I mean, it doesn't need to be on our list because we don't fall anywhere on it. You know what I mean, for the Cliff Notes version of it. So, but yeah, I think that's a good deal that we should get together and
and just kind of get it all out there, whether it takes us an hour or 10. And then that way we quit revisiting it over and over and then forgetting parts, because I know the last meeting we were going to come back with the budget and come back with, but we just came back with a registration form. Because it is time consuming, and it does have a lot of moving parts, and it does require, to me, it does require for all of us to put our minds to it and not put the pressure on 2 people to come with such a big, or 3 people to come with such a big chore. I just think that would be in the best interest of
well,
the
plus it helps the ones
fund.
that are trying to get the paperwork together know what we expect as a group.
Right.
So that when we actually come to council for the council meeting, we're not spending another 2 hours trying to explain it to the general public.
Exactly.
We have it cleared up and everything, and we know exactly where we stand, so.
Okay.
Be a better process. I agree. I agree.
Thank you, guys.
So,
And thank you all for your work
staff.
on this, council. And
Bother
this
us
one.
enough to get us into another meeting.
I know it's going to be hard, but I think it'll be good. I'll entertain a motion at this time for agenda item number 17.
Mayor, a motion to implement 2019, 2020 CVB grant registration form.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, council. Motion stands as stated.
You guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Both of you for your hard work. And Miss Barbara, thank you. Agenda item number 18, hear status report on May 2019 month-end financial statements and summary of funds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening, Mr. Rowland.
Roland.
I know I'm the last item that stands before you in adjournment, so I'll try to make it quick.
Should place you first so that we're
Yeah,
not
and
late.
Mr. Esparza wanted to make sure I stay till the end. Okay. For the month ending May 31st, 2019, was our general fund revenues, $8,403,808. And we're 8 months into the fiscal period, so we should be at 66.67%, and we're at 66.24. So we're in line, and that's without the 2 months of sales tax revenue recorded. Property tax through May is $1,904,584, and year-to-date, we've collected $2,775,595, which is 97.15%. On Exhibit B, shows 2019 versus 18 and 17 levy. And 2019, we collected $3,911,774. And 2018 at the exact same time was $3,930,546. So we're pretty much in line, about 18,772 less than what we were in 2018 at the same time. Sales tax, through May is $4,233,760, and through March, we've collected $3,089,506. On Exhibit C, we show through April we've collected, but it's not reflected in the books. But our April collections was actually $509,733, which is about 28,000 higher than last year at the same time. So that's a good sign that sales tax is starting to, I wouldn't say pick up, but it's leveling off. Our occupational, let me see. Exhibit D shows sales tax collection actual for 2019 versus actual for 2018. And that is a difference of, and we were, in 2019, we were 1,190 less than 2018 at the exact same time, so they're pretty close. Our occupational and mixed beverage tax, we're about 35%. And franchise license and permits is about 56% of budget. That's for third quarter collections. This is April 1st through June 30th, and that's not due till July. So we haven't started collecting on that portion yet. All right, our governmental sales, 52.22%. Charges for services came in pretty strong at 128%. Fines and forfeitures is also at 100%. Miscellaneous revenues is 211%. Most of that is the collections from the rent for the BT church. And our interfund transfers was 73%. Our general fund expenditures is $7,827,929 through May, and that's 62.18%, so that's a little bit under budget. All your major funds are general service, finance administration, fire, PD, are all under budget. Your street maintenance is right on budget. Parks and Recs is under budget, and library and interfund transfers are under budget as well. So revenues versus expenditures. for all funds. General fund, we're at 575,878 in the positive. Solid waste is 37,408 in the positive. Utility fund is 20,839 in the positive. Airport fund is 10,260. That's without your transfers. Golf course fund is 13,097, again without the transfers. Your hotel occupancy tax fund is about 32,000, and the multi-use complex is about 69,536 in the negative without the transfers. I'm sorry, that's including with the transfers. Sorry about that. The last slide, Exhibit G, shows 2019 versus 2018. In 2018 for general fund, we're about 630,000, and this year at the same time we're about 576,000 for general fund. Solid waste 134,500 roughly as in 2018. 2019 is 37,400. Utility fund was in the negative 431,130 last year. This year it's in the positive almost 21,000. Airport fund was almost 11,000 in the positive in 2018, and 2019 is about 10,260. The golf course fund was almost 11,000 in the negative in 18, and in 19 it's a little over 13,000. Hotel occupancy tax fund was 5,300 in the positive, 326. And this year it's 31,754. And our multi-use complex in 2018 was almost 20,000 in negative, and this year it's 69,536. So, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Council, any questions? Ms. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp? Mr. Molina?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Roland.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Roland.
Great job. Staff?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, staff.
Agenda item number 19, adjourn and/or consider and act upon adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the time is now 7:26, and I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much for being here and everybody watching at home. Thank you. I cannot move anymore, I'm frozen.